Hello there, happy Monday. Thank you for joining me. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make lovely and quirky hand embroidery kits. And I am here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. And it's a time where we can relax and craft together for about an hour. And I work on projects from beginning to end so you can be part of the whole process and learn with me and work with me along the way and just come and chit chat. So thanks again for joining me. We're continuing on the Splendid Sampler to quilt along tonight. We are going to start a new block. We are going to start the comfort food block right there. So it's that little cute ice cream cone. And I thought this was totally fitting tonight because I wanted to, first of all, work on some more foundation paper piecing, and that's the technique we're going to be using today. And I just got home from visiting my family, and I had a whole pile of ice cream when I was at home there. So I opened it up to this page, had the ice cream cone. I'm like, that's the one. So we're going to work on that one tonight. So thanks again for joining me. I'm going to flip you around, and we'll get going on it right now. Okay, comfort food, so much ice cream. All right, so this is foundation paper piecing. This is by Jane Davidson, the comfort food block. And here are the templates. I have photocopied them. I've actually photocopied them twice, just in case we want to use one as a guide later. So I'll just kind of put that one to the side. So the piece, the template is laid out like the ice cream cone, so we can kind of tell, where the cone is. It's got this little detail line here, and then we have the ice cream right here, and then the rest is the background. And then we have this little strawberry here. That's right there. That's added on after. So we're not going to worry about that guy right now. I'm just kind of concerned with the middle. So what I like to do first with foundation paper piecing, typically, especially when it's supposed to look like something, like an actual object afterwards, is I like to color in the template first with some colored pencil, just so I know what's going on. I like to pick fabric and then color it in, because with foundation paper piecing, we are going to be taking this and moving it all over the place, and it'll be separated from this bottom piece, and it's just easy to get confused pretty quickly. So I'm going to just start. Let's pick some fabric, and we will color it in then. Oh, you love chocolate chip mint ice cream. Oh my gosh, so do I. I wonder if I have something that would look like that. I did grab, I grabbed from my mom's stash, so you might know if you've been working with us here that I am running out of my pale yellow pieces. So this is, I'm making an overall kind of pale yellow, pale tan quilt, and my pieces are getting kind of low here. So Mom said I could steal some from her. So I have some backup pieces here, just kind of like this kind of a pinky tan with like a little mottled look to it. This might even be a batik, actually. Oh no, this is a printed fabric. Then just like a pale yellow. This is just has a texture on it. It's like a texture. Just kind of like a mottled look again. Cute little tan stars. That'll be kind of sweet. This is just a tan. It has kind of like a white, almost like a Christmas sort of, like an evergreen branch almost, I'm not sure, with some little dots. I know, she was nice to share. And then I grabbed this one too. This one might be a little bright, but we'll find a space for it. And it's a batik, which is so cool. So this is, a batik is when it's completely dyed. There's wax drawn onto it, and that's what makes all the patterns. And then it's completely dyed, and then the wax is taken off. So it's a little stiffer. But it just has that really beautiful painty look. So we got some injection of new fabric here. I'm going to try and use some of those and some of the old together to kind of blend it all. So let's kind of think through what would be cute for this. So just to start out, I am going to do white for the background. So I always, for my quilt, one of the rules I've given for my personal quilt here is that whenever I can, I'm going to use a white background. That's something I've seen in quilts before, but I've never done myself. So that was one of my rules I set for this quilt. So when I can, when there's an obvious background, I'm going to make it white. So that's one of my rules. So I have white for the background. So we got to consider that when we pick fabric. And then the other rule is that I'm only going to use the pale colors. I have some bright colors, and I'm only going to use those bright colors every 5 blocks or so. And I already broke that rule with the last block that we did because I used some bright colors in there when I wasn't gonna. But all right, let's start on this. To start out, I'm just thinking, you know, in my head, the cone should be kind of a tan color. Because in my head, it's like those little, I don't know, it's more of a tan than like a yellow, golden, bright color, I think. So let's find a tan. And again, I need enough fabric for this too. You know, this is awfully cute. We could do like a crisscross. We could make it the shape on the bias so it would be like a crisscrossy cone. That's kind of cute. Okay, I kind of like that. Let's do this for the cone. There'll be, sweet. Okay, so let's do this for the cone. That'll go here. And then what for ice cream? So we do have these other bright colors now. Gosh. You know, it's funny because I am really using these light pale colors, and it's kind of a challenge, right? Because, you know, this would be one that it'd be fun to really do like a chocolate ice cream cone or something, but I'm not using those types of colors. So since we used a tan here, because I really like this idea of the crisscross. So since we used the tan, you know, it might be good to use something like a bright yellow or something. Let's just put that there temporarily. I don't know, what else do we got going on for colors here? We have, we could do like this orange. That would almost look like little chocolate chips or something. There's that floral. I mean, this isn't tan, so maybe we change this out, but that's kind of mint chocolate chippy a little bit, doesn't it? The one with flowers looks like sprinkles. Yeah, this almost looks like mint chocolate chip. I don't have any pink, so I'm literally just choosing from these yellows. So that's kind of the goofy thing about all this. Yeah, Joe. So that's what I was thinking too. This block is going to be a bit easier paper piecing than some of our other ones for sure. You know, this is just kind of pale and sweet. A really like gentle sort of not explosive sort of looking thing. I don't know. We still have we'll have a little cherry on top too. Or I mean a strawberry. The strawberry maybe we use a bright color for, or maybe it's a lemon drop or something on top here. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this isn't. Oh yeah, it could be like a banana flavored. I don't know. All these don't feel like ice cream colors to me. I guess vanilla. Vanilla is kind of the white, but we're using the white for the background. Oh, this one's a little bit challenging, I think, for picking colors. You know, we could do like stars. I don't know. I don't know. For some reason, I kind of like this. I don't know what I like about it. Oh yeah, we need that accent band too. So let's see. Maybe that can be the thing that separates these two colors a little bit more. I mean, maybe that's kind of this dark color here. This is a little darker. This is one of our new colors. It's a pink. You know, this actually kind of looks like a little sherbet color, actually. Maybe we do something with this. Right, maybe we do a yellow cone instead. I just think that kind of looks a little dirty. I still like this. I still like this idea of this crisscross here. What if we go back to here? And then this is our little line in between. You know, that might work. What do you guys think about this? What's the darker color on my right? It's the stars, and then I have, like, the darkest color is probably this. Oh, swirl fabric, that would be kind of cute too. Oh, that's kind of fun. I don't know, I think this kind of looks like, this looks like sprinkles or jimmies or something else in there. I think, I think we'll go with this. I think I like it. You can kind of start visualizing it, but at some point it's just like you kind of got to go with it. This is such a bright color. We'll use that some other time. All right, so I think we'll do those for now, and then I'll wait on deciding about this strawberry and stuff later. We'll deal with that later. Maybe we'll use the same pale color, or maybe I will end up using one of the bright colors for the little strawberry too. But I think we got a good start here. So what I'm going to do is, while I still have this laid out here, I'm just going to color on here what's what, just so I remember. I'm just going to grab, I have my little bin here of colored pencils, and I'm just going to grab a few out of here. So this is, while we can still like visualize it. So this A1 piece here, that's our flowery, I'm just gonna draw flowers that are pink because there's some pink flowers in there. All right, so I know, you know what, I'm gonna color it into, just because sometimes when it's colored, you can get the visual of the piece. So, all right, flowers, kind of pink. That's this top piece. Here's kind of an orange. That's going to be our middle piece. Okay, and then we have our crisscrossing. I'm going to make that, I'm kind of exaggerating the colors a little bit, but that'll just help me later. So let's, I want to find kind of like a tan or a brown here. Well, this is really dark, but I'm gonna use it here. So I'm just gonna put crisscrosses here. That'll help me know what we're dealing with, I think. I'll just shimmy it in too. All right, I think I'll remember that. The crisscross is the crisscross, the orange or yellow-orange is this orange stripe, and then the pink with the flowers is this one that has pink flowers. That seems logical, right? All right, let's go with that. But here you can already see, you can get the visual of it right away, where before it was just like this, and if you were turning it other ways, you would kind of lose the design pretty quickly. But now we can see it right away. So, all right, let's get this to the side. And then the white, the background, everything else, I'm going to use the white. So I'm just going to leave that white. Okay, so that is prepared. Now let's take a look at this template for a sec here. We have two sections, it looks like. So you can tell not all of them will have them divided perfectly like this. Not all paper piecing projects. Sometimes you'll have to look at it and you'll look at each of these pieces and there'll be a letter and a number typically. So these ones all have the letter A on it, and these ones, as we go down here, oh, the A is not an A anymore, it is a B. So these are all B pieces. So anything that has the A, we can cut that out all together as the A section, and then we have the B section here. So I'm going to cut those out. The seam allowance is included on this particular pattern. Again, that is not always included with a foundation paper piecing pattern. So if you bought a pattern that's foundation paper piecing, just keep that in mind, that you might not always have these sections perfectly laid out, and you might not always have a seam allowance drawn on, but that's fine. You do not actually need the seam allowance. And actually, maybe for this particular block, why don't we work on this as if we didn't have the seam allowance? Because the ones that we have been doing, I have been doing the seam allowance. So why don't we just trim the seam allowance away? So I'm going to be a little bit more careful because I do want to see the line. So I'm actually trimming like maybe a hair away from the line, just so I can see it still there. So I completely cut off that seam allowance. I'm going to do it the other ways too. I mean, if you do have the seam allowance, like they do here, might as well keep it. It's good to just have a visual reminder. But I just wanted to show you that you don't actually need it to do foundation paper piecing. So we're going to just trim it off. All right. So here is the A section, but you can already see, like, if I drop this and lay it around everywhere, you know, and if I hadn't colored these in, I would have just completely lost of what I'm supposed to draw or what fabric I'm supposed to use. But this way, by coloring it in first, I'll know. And you can make a little guide if you want, like if there's a lot of pieces or you don't think you'll remember just from coloring it in, make another sheet and put some little swatches with it too that you can use as a guide. Whatever you can do to make it easier later, that's what you want to do with foundation paper piecing. Because the best thing I think about foundation paper piecing is that you don't have to measure, you don't have to, like with a ruler, you don't have to cut using a ruler. You can just, it's just like really, it's a nice brain relaxer, I think, once you get the hang of it. So you'll get into like a rhythm of, you know, prepping a piece, sewing, and then pressing, and then prepping, sew, press. You'll get into that rhythm without having to do math or anything, and it can get really relaxing. So the less you have to think during this whole process, the better, and that includes being confused at what fabric goes where. So this actually, with these, now that I got rid of the seam allowance, now you can even see the ice cream cone even better because I don't have that gap of the seam allowance. So this is actually what it's going to look like. It's going to connect right here. And that is why oftentimes you won't get it divided in these sections right away because a designer has so many intricate pieces everywhere, and they might not all be, like, your sections might not be nice rectangles like this. You might have a little sliver up here, that's the C section, and then you might have like a little sliver down here, that's the D section. We just have the A and B sections right now, but sometimes it'll be all over the place, the more difficult foundation paper piecing projects. So they won't even give you the seam allowance, they won't divide it up. That's when you have to really look, okay, there are all these A's and there aren't any other A's, so here's my A section. Then you cut that out. You got your A section. Then you find your B's. You actually have to look and find the letter B's. They should all be touching. They should all be in a section, but you have to look for them and make sure you have them all before you cut it out of your larger piece. But yeah, this is a good representation without the seam allowances of what this might have looked like when you got it all put together right away. So all right. We are prepped, so I'm going to scooch this out of the way now. All right, so we have our A section and our B section. So I typically go in order. You don't always have to go in order, but in theory, the designer put it in that order for a purpose. So I'm going to do the A section first, and then we'll do the B section. So all right, let's take a look at this. So I'm just going to set the B to the side. All right, A1, we got 3 different fabrics. We got our flower, we got our kind of that gold color, and then all our white. So if we look at this, we have all our A's, and then after the A is a number. That is the order that we sew in. We don't want to veer from that. That is for sure the order that we want to go. So A1, A2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 and 7. And the reason it's like that is because foundation paper piecing is kind of additive. You're always kind of shaping the piece that came before by adding a piece on top. So, you know, we're starting with this odd shape in the middle, and then we're shaping it with all the other pieces. So, all right, I'm going to start with A1. So what we need to find, here's my A1 fabric. What we need to do is cut a piece of fabric that's as big as this A1 piece plus a generous seam allowance. So you can, you want to get your fabric. I'm going to just press a little area on this quickly. I have my iron on over here. I'm going to just try and get it out of this section here. Actually, this is maybe more pink and floral down here. I want a pink and florally area. All right. So I'm going to lay my fabric the right side down. And you can do this a couple different ways. You could either lay this piece on top and kind of cut a piece that's as big as this plus the generous seam allowance, or you can take your extra sheet. This is that extra printout that I cut out, and this is probably the easier way of doing it. You can cut out that A1 piece. So I'm going to just trim into this, into my extra page here. I guess I'll just cut straight up on the line. Well, here, we'll go this way. I'm going to just trim out this A1 piece. I could cut out all the pieces already, but we'll go one at a time. And it doesn't need to be perfect. You just want to get the general size and shape of it. All right, so you can use this piece to lay out, to find where you want the fabric. And you can actually fussy cut it. So if I want all these pink flowers here, like all these pink flowers would be kind of cute, I can lay the piece like right here. So the fabric should be right side down, and your template should be the printed side up. So there we go. I'm going to kind of frame it around these pink flowers. So I want it the size of this and the generous seam allowance. I always go a little bit more than the 1/4 inch just to make sure. So I actually go almost a 1/2 inch sometimes. I kind of think it's a bit easier to go bigger with a bigger seam allowance. And don't worry if it's not perfect, if it's a crazy blob, because it's gonna turn out to be amazing when you're done with it. It's gonna be a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's what's so fun about it. I didn't measure, I didn't care how pretty it looked, I just chopped. I mean, look at all these crazy chop marks and everything, right? So, okay. To finish up the A1 piece, all I'm going to do is put a tiny dab of glue on this side. And we just want to hold it in place for the time being until we can... Oh, you know what, you guys? I don't want to put the glue on this piece. I want to put it on... that's just our guide to cut it out. I want to actually put it on this piece. So let's take this guy and kind of position it so it is, we have that generous seam allowance all the way around. There we go. And now we can put a little dab of glue. I almost put it in the wrong spot. Do we have a seam allowance there? I think so. I can scooch up a hair maybe. Got ahead of myself there. There, I put a little dab on that side and a little dab on that side. Okay, now we're looking right. All right. So we are done with the A1 piece. That is all there is to the first piece of a section. Oh yeah, that was almost English paper piecing. You're right, Nolene. All right. So your one piece. So like this is A1, but we'll have the B1 piece, and then any first piece in a section is treated the same way. So that's by making your blob shape and gluing it to your piece here. You can pin it and stuff too, but the point is that it's not attached yet from sewing. That will happen next. So for the time being, it's temporarily held there. After the first piece, the one piece, every other piece after that is worked in a similar fashion. Different than the A1 piece, but every other piece works in the same as each other. So I'll show you that. Our first what we do next is the A2 piece. So we're done with A1. A2 is next. Now I can tell from the color that it is this fabric here. And you know what? We're actually done with this fabric already. There's no other of that in our piece, so that's easy. First thing is I'm going to get a postcard out. I always have a postcard when I'm doing foundation paper piecing. I like a postcard because it's nice and stiff, but it has a stiff edge, but it's a sharp edge because it's so thin. And why I want that is because I am going to fold the paper over the sharp edge here. So what I'm doing now is I want to look at the piece that we're going to work on now. That's A2. And you see there's lots of lines everywhere, right? So the line we're concerned with now is the piece that we're working on, A2, and whatever came before. In this case, it's A1. So what's the line in between A2 and A1? It's going to be this line right here. So this is the only line we're concerned with. We want to completely ignore every single other line on this page. I'm only concerned with this line from this point to that point. So, all right. I'm going to take my postcard. I'm going to cover up everything that came before, which is, again, the A1. And I'm going to ignore everything that comes after. Completely ignore. I'm going to lay my postcard along that line. Then I'm going to take my hand and just fold up the paper, the whole entire edge, along that line. So there, now I got that nice sharp edge right there. We're revealing some of the blob of our first piece. So now you can take a ruler and we want to trim this edge 1/4 inch from the ruler. So, or from this folded edge. So you can go, you can take a ruler and line it up on the edge just really carefully like that. And then take your rotary cutter and trim. However, I like using my add 1/4 ruler. So this is a special ruler. It says add 1/4. And what that means is we're going to, well, what it is a ruler that has a little lip to it. I don't know if you can see that there. It has a lip, like an edge to it, and it's 1/4 inch wide, that ledge. So instead of putzing around to measure this up perfectly, which I hate doing in foundation paper piecing, all I have to do is bop this ledge up against, against the folded edge we just made. So the folded edge and the postcard makes it thick enough that I can just bop this on. So I don't even have to measure. I don't even have to think, right? So now we're going to take a rotary cutter and trim that edge. So we're all of a sudden going to make our blob a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. And if you start doing a lot of foundation paper piecing, I would definitely get one of these. It is a favorite tool for sure. Yeah, one of those favorite tools that will change your life. All right, so now that we've cut our perfect seam allowance, we can fold our piece of paper back. So that step is done. Next up, let's get our piece of fabric for that A2 piece. So we have it here. I'm just gonna grab it from up here. It doesn't look like it. I mean, you know, the whole piece needs pressing, but if I just grab from this corner, I don't think we'll need pressing. So this is just a rectangle. Rectangles are very easy in foundation paper piecing. I just need to cut, I can just even lay this on here. I just need a piece that's as big as this A2 piece plus the generous seam allowance. And remember, I cut off the seam allowance along the edge. I need to add that seam allowance here as well. So we can also use our guide again. I'll use this again for you tonight. Like I said, I could just lay this on top and kind of lift it up and look around and trim it. Oh, we do need the right side down though. But we'll do it this way. So I always have a straight edge. The part that's gonna meet the straight edge that we just cut, so we just cut that perfect seam allowance there, that's gonna be this line, that line that we folded. So I want this straight, nice edge that we just cut to match this nice straight edge, like the part that we folded. So that's the top of the A2 piece. I'm gonna use this as my nice straight edge on the top. And actually, I'm gonna even, well, yeah, I'll use the scissors. I was gonna just use my rotary cutter. So again, I just want a piece that's as big as this A2 plus the generous seam allowance. So again, I'm almost doing like a 1/2 inch seam allowance. It's just easier. I don't have to measure, and you're less likely to make a mistake when it's a little bit bigger. And that's it. We're done with this fabric. I can put that away. Okay. I don't need this piece anymore. That was just to help me cut it out. So this top piece, I want to match up with this edge. So that's our fold line, right? So let's just flip that around. I want those two edges together. And now I want to test to make sure that I put this in the right spot, that I didn't put it too far this way or too far this way. So I'm putting the right sides of the fabric together in a place where I kind of think it's going to go. But let's do a test. So I'm going to just flip this around. I'm going to pretend that I'm sewing along the line that we folded here. So this is that same line that we folded, that between the A2 and the A1 piece. And I'm gonna just put 2 pins directly along that line. So that's my test sewing. Now I'm gonna do a test pressing. So I'm gonna fold this up against those pins and give it a little finger press. So I'll know if this is in the correct spot if I still have my at least 1/4 inch seam allowance around the piece. So here's my A2 piece. You know, we just have a 1/4 inch there. Here we have a lot more. In theory, I could scooch it this way a little bit, but I still have plenty there. And we have a generous seam allowance down here as well. So we are plenty good for our position. So I'm just gonna fold that back. Right sides are still together. Now we can sew. Next up, I'm gonna sew along this line here, the same line that we have pinned. So, all right, let's get down to the sewing machine. Okay, so I do have my, for my sewing machine, I do have the stitch length. I'm gonna make it a little smaller right now. I'm gonna make my stitch length a little smaller than when I'm normally sewing fabric, just because the more little perforations you can put into the paper, you know, each time you stitch, you're putting the needle into the paper. And if you do that with them closer together, it'll be easier to tear away. So, all right, I'm gonna remove a pin here, but I'm gonna keep, I'm holding that fabric there in place with right sides together. I'm gonna scooch this whole thing. I wanna start stitching right at this part that connects here. I'm not gonna stitch into this A6 piece at all. I only am gonna start right there. So I'm gonna place the needle right at that start point. And I'm going to just stitch. I'm going to remove this pin too, just because I think it's going to get in my way. There we go. I'm still holding it in place here though. So I'm going to make a stitch forward and then a stitch backwards to lock it in place. That's kind of like tying a little knot when you sew. And then I'm going to sew directly along that line. I'm going to go nice and slow. And I'm going to stop where it intersects this other line. So I don't want to cross any lines. And then I'm going to just do a back stitch again and forward again to lock it in place. And that is that. So let's take it off of the machine. All right, so we have our stitched line, and I'm not going past those lines. So I'm going to just snip the ends. I'm going to snip the paper side first, clip over here, snip those little threads. That's just going to get so annoying really quick. But all right, let's head over to the iron. This is that triad of events. You got your little placing everything here, then to the sewing machine, then to the iron. And it's just a matter of going around and around with that. So here we are. First thing I'm going to do is finger press it, but you can see that I'm not going all the way to the edges there with the sewing because I stopped right at that line. So we have some floppy little area right here on the end. And that's why I want to finger press it. So what I mean by that is I'm just going to press it over along that seam right where the sewing is, where I know the sewing is, and then I'm going to just extend that fold with my finger here, the part that doesn't have the stitching. And we will press that then. I always want to make sure that I'm pressing on the fabric side. I don't want to press on the side with the printing because that printing could come off on my sewing machine and I don't want to do that. So, okay. That is our A1 piece and our A2 piece done. So here we go. And you can start seeing that by putting the next piece on, we are carving this shape. So it's still a blob up here, but it's a perfectly nice straight shape right there. So we're starting to carve our ice cream cone here. Looking pretty cute. Okay, so let's move on. Let's do our A3 piece. So let's find it first. So our A3 piece is up in the corner here, and we are using white for all the rest of this. So let's prep it with the postcard first. So we're concerned with the line that is between A3 and everything that came before. So it's not this line or this line because A6 and A5 come after A3. It is this line because this A1 and this A2 came before A3. So I'm going to cover up that A1, A2 area. I'm going to ignore all these other lines. So I'm going to pretend that that A6 isn't even there. And we're going to fold all the way through those other lines. And there we have our seam allowance revealed. Let's get our add a quarter and bump it up on there. And we'll trim that away, that excess. So our perfect blob turned into a pretty seam allowance again there. Okay, so we can fold that back, move the postcard. Now we have that nice straight edge for that A3 piece. So let's grab our A3 piece here. And it looks like the A4 piece is the same, just reversed. So I'm going to actually cut that piece out at the same time. So let's get our white, get that started. Let's see, I'm just going to press this area. Well, we'll start doing it from this side. I'm going to give that a little press. This A3 and A4 piece, that's what's really going to complete the crafting of this, the top of this ice cream cone. All right. So again, I want this straight edge that matches up with that straight edge that we just folded and cut. That's what we want the straightest edge when we cut our like little blobs here. So I'm actually, just to make it easy for myself, I'm going to use up all this fabric in some way or another. So I'm not worried about being like perfectly, puzzle pieced together. I'm just gonna, this is a straight edge and this is a straight edge. So I'm going to fold this and cut both my A3 pieces and A4 pieces at the same time. So I'm going to match up that straight edge. That's the one there. And add my generous 1/4 inch seam allowance around there. So this is the straight edge. And you can cut a straight edge too if you don't have one. All right, kind of come down there. Okay, so what I have to remember, since this white doesn't have a right or wrong side, it is important that I know what's the right and wrong side. So I'm going to put the right side down. So I'm going to flip this one because it's the reverse. So I'm just going to lay this to the side. That's going to be my A4 piece there. So I know that the right side is down. I just have to remember that. And here, it goes right here. So I kind of like almost laying the pieces together like this sometimes. The straight edges, I don't need this. And then I pick it up and I fold the right sides together like that. All right, that's how I know like what edge is what here. So I'm just kind of lining it along that edge. I'm guessing again where it should be. It might need to be shifted up here or down a little bit further. I'm hoping I made my piece big enough that it'll work wherever I put it, but let's do our test. So I'm gonna line those edges, flip it around, and do our 1/4 inch, or do our little test press with the pin. I'll just do one pin this time. All right, now our pretend press. We want to make sure that this triangle covers our shape plus a generous seam allowance. And actually, we don't have all that much seam allowance on this side, but a ton up here. So I'm actually going to just shift it downward a little. That's why this is good to test. It's a little harder with triangles to get the right placement, I think, or odd-shaped things compared to like just a rectangle. So let's try that again. And I think we probably have it now, but let's do our test. Pretend press. Oh, there. Much more seam allowance on both on this side, and it's just kind of evened out there. All right, let's fold it back and sew. Down to the machine. All right. So I'm going to flip that around. And again, we are only sewing on that A3 line. I'm going to take this pin off and just hold the fabric in place there. I'm only going to stitch from that point to this point. So I'm going to back tack or do that forward and back stitching at the front and the end of this row. Just checking to see that my pieces are still aligned. We're good to go. If you go over the, oops, like I did just there, if you go over the line a little bit, it's fine. Like here I went like a stitch or so over. That won't be the end of the world. All right, let's snip. And again, I always snip the little fringes off right away because they can get annoying. There we go. All right, so that's that piece. Let's go over to the machine. Oh, look, or to the iron. We're starting to shape it here, though. Nope. Over to the iron. All right, let's finger press it again. First on the part that we sewed, and then extending it the rest of the way. Then give it a little press. And that is all. Okay, so here's that piece. I would like to get that A4 piece on quick tonight yet. So let's do our little process here again. We're done with A1 through A3. So next up is the A4. So we're concerned with the line between A4 and whatever came before. So that's all of this section over here. All of this came before. So that's what we're going to cover up, and we're just concerned with this line. These don't exist yet, the A7 and A5. So I'm just going to rotate that. So since I'm right-handed here, cover up all that came before. Go on that line. Tilt the whole thing up. But we're going to have a couple seam allowances to trim in this one. So all right, let's bop that up against there to add a quarter ruler. Look, I'm using my glove. I'm getting better at getting my glove on every night now. We're trying to be a little safer. Don't want to cut myself. That would be not fun. All right, let's fold that back. And we've already cut our A4 piece, so the right side should be down. And again, I'm just going to kind of line it up with the straight edge, matching the straight edges, right? And then I'm going to just take that piece and fold it over so the right sides are together along that edge. And, you know, let's guess on placement. There, looks good. Let's flip it around, hold those edges. We'll do our pretend sew. If you get real daring, you can skip this part, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend doing this fake press, this test every single time. All right, we got plenty over there and plenty on top. I think we're good. Because, I mean, if you are just a little off, like how we were getting a little off on this side before, if you're just too far up this way and you don't have your seam allowance, or worse, you've even gone over your piece, so you haven't covered part of your piece, then it's a whole big pain because you have to take it out, which might tear the paper, so you're going to have to tape the paper back together, and it can just be, it's just much easier to cut a little bit bigger pieces and do your test. I know, I should take the price tag off the glove. I was hoping it would be one that would just rip off, but, you know, I suppose I have a scissors right here. I could just cut it off, couldn't I? I think I've left it on just so I remember what brand it is, but I don't really need to do that either. I can always look up what brand it was. One of those things I keep saying I should do and then I forget by the time I'm done doing whatever I was doing. All right, just going to those lines again. All right, and we'll trim that, trim our little pieces. All right, and there we are. Let's press that. Do our finger press first. All right, there we are, starting to shape things. You know, we'll get that next piece is this A5 piece. We'll get that on. That will shape the top. That will give us the rounded sort of look. And then we'll be cutting off these sides with the other two pieces, and then we'll finish it up. So, but you can really see all of a sudden the blobs are starting to get formed, right? So it's this slow development process of shapes appearing, which I just think is so exciting. And I love that about foundation paper piecing. So let's just peek. Let's peek at this. I want to see what it might look like with our other piece. So technically this is the right side and this is the wrong side. So this would go like this. But since this is kind of the same, you know, it's a mirror image, so it'll look the same whether it's the right side or the wrong side. We can kind of get a glimpse of what it might start to look like. Ah, it's cute. Look at it. Oh my gosh, it's cute. All right, love it. That's going to be this fabric again. But I want to do it, remind me if I forget tomorrow, I want to do it at the diagonal, like on the bias, so the crisscrosses are on the diagonal, because I think that would be pretty cute. Neat. All right, so this is definitely a good, easy foundation paper piecing project. So if you've never done foundation paper piecing, take a look at this one. It is on page 132, called Comfort Food, because it's easy, but you do deal with lots of things. Like you still have triangles, which are sometimes a little more difficult than squares. You have like multiple pieces. You have two different sections, so you don't always have that on easy blocks. So you get the opportunity to sew your two sections together when you're done. That's a little bit of a process. So this would be a great beginner foundation paper piecing project. So definitely recommend this. It's going easy peasy so far. You could easily, if you just crank through this, you could do this in an evening for sure, this whole thing, I think. Yeah, let's call it 3 hours. You could do this in 3 hours. I think I underestimate time on this stuff a little bit. But all right, you guys, that's that for tonight. I'm going to flip you around and we can peek at this again. Take a look at what it looks like. All right, let's look. All right, here we are. Oh, cute. So if I tuck this under here, we can start to see the little ice cream cone, and this will be clipped off at the top. Cute. All right, I'm really happy we went with the flowers. I think that's just going to be adorable. It does look like little mint chips or something, doesn't it? And then, yeah, we'll have this at the bottom. Cute. I love it. All right. It feels good to do some foundation paper piecing. Yet, you know, I get on these little kicks, so this will be good. 20 minutes max to get it done? Sure, Nolene. If you cruise through it, if you get your headphones on and you just get cracking. So awesome, you guys. I will get this up on YouTube. I'll also get Fridays up on YouTube. So we had a Finish It Friday on location at my parents' house on Friday. And we laid out the Triangle Tango quilt on the floor, and I organized it all and got it rearranged, and you can see what it'll kind of look like as a quilt. I got all the rows together, pinned together, clipped together with Wonder Clips, and I'll get that video up on YouTube at Penguin and Fish Movies as well. So awesome, you guys! It's nice to be back here, and I will be continuing this tomorrow. Here on the Penguin and Fish Facebook page. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night.